As the golden age of country music came to a close in the 1970s and 1980s, Barbara Mandrell shone brightly as a star. She was a role model for fearlessness, originality, and perseverance in show business, in addition to being a phenomenal vocalist. With hits like Sleeping Single in a Double Bed and I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool, Mandall continued to win over fans and earned 2 prestigious Entertainer of the Year awards from the Country Music Association. This honor is still held by only a select few female artists. But there's a story full of paradoxes and profound emotion beneath all that glitz. How is it possible for a famous person to suddenly stop being famous? Barbara Mandrell had a brilliant career, so why did she decide to retire and spend more time with her family? Would you say the profound call of parenthood or the agony of a terrible accident? In addition to defining country music, Barbara Mandrell lived a story of hardship, sacrifice, and deep principles that go beyond the stage lights. So let's dive into her incredible journey. The musical arts were deeply ingrained in Barbara Mandrell's family from the moment she entered this world on Christmas Day, 1948, in Houston, Texas. Barbara, the first of 3 sisters, had a deep appreciation for music instilled in her by her parents at a young age. Mary Ellen Mandrell trained her daughter to play the piano and composed some of her first songs, while her father, Irby, was an entrepreneurial visionary and musician. On the other hand, I didn't just stumble into a love for music. It was shaped by rigorous and occasionally painful discipline. Barbara was obligated to study an instrument and was expected to master each note to perfection. On other days, her little hands would bleed from practicing for so long, yet she never once grumbled. Not only did Barbara feel pressure from her father, but she also had very high standards for herself, expecting nothing less than perfection and nothing less than excellence. Irby believed that his family could not let Barbara's potential go to waste. The Mandrell family relocated to Oceanside, California, when Barbara was 6 years old, and her father established a music store. In addition to setting the stage for Barbara's extraordinary childhood, this provided the springboard for her musical career. During her childhood, Barbara dedicated a great deal of time to practicing the steel guitar, an instrument known for its difficulty, while her friends played with dolls and had carefree days. Believing that her skill would be acknowledged one day, she pushed through tiredness and strain during these practice sessions, which required not only concentration but also tremendous mental power. She became known as the Princess of Steel at the tender age of 11, thanks to her innate abilities and her strict regimentation of training. Barbara felt both the physical and invisible weight of her title, knowing that everyone was watching her every move. But Barbara's skill did not stay contained to that little room in her childhood home. Her father saw her enormous talent and took her to the theater at a young age. Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash, 2 country music icons, were immediately captivated by Barbara's remarkable talent and professionalism as she embarked on a tour with them. Barbara was barely in her teens at the time. In addition to demonstrating her technical proficiency, Barbara commanded the stage with her charismatic presence during her performances. Despite the cheers, she was the object of jealousy from her colleagues and even some influential people in her field who thought her success was due entirely to her family's backing. The stage lights could not always mask Barbara's feelings of isolation. In those reflective moments, she questioned if she was acting on her heart or just carrying out the wishes of her parents. However, Barbara did not allow herself to be consumed by these uncertainties. Rather, she utilized them as a source of motivation to persist. When her father assembled the Mandrell family band, a group that included all of her relatives, the inner strife intensified. Irlene, the youngest sister, took up drums. Louise played guitar and bass. Barbara played steel guitar, and their mother performed the piano. After becoming famous, the band tirelessly toured the nation and played at USO concerts for troops overseas. Despite the allure of the stage, Barbara frequently wondered if she was really fulfilling her lifelong ambition or if she was just trying to appease her parents. With each trip, she had to say goodbye to the childhood fantasies she believed she should have been pursuing. But rather than crumbling under the weight, Barbara discovered how to turn these challenges into opportunities. The resounding ovation that followed each performance became her anchor, affirming that her efforts were not in vain. In addition to shaping Barbara Mandrell into an exceptionally gifted artist, her upbringing also gave her the fortitude to overcome the obstacles she would encounter in her career in show business. a formidable performer and a lady of tremendous strength who would not rest until she broke barriers and made her own unforgettable impression, were both born out of these early hardships. Barbara Mandrell thought her life was starting a more peaceful chapter after finishing high school, used to high expectations and pressure. She wed Ken Dudney, the man she had loved passionately since she was a young girl, when she was just 19 years old. In the face of the incessant pressures of a career in show business, this marriage seems like a simple aspiration for a young woman seeking security. After enduring a demanding upbringing, Barbara felt she could finally relax and settle down with her family. Unfortunately, she was once again unable to escape the limelight for long due to the hand of fate. Seeing the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville reawakened her dormant love for music. Her heart had always had a fiery love for music, and the audience's cheers, the powerful country songs, and the energetic environment brought it all back to life. She came to the realization that if she didn't pursue her musical path further, the family life she had always desired would be unfulfilled. Barbara was recommitted to her vocation and was ready to show herself once again, this time as an artist and not only the princess of the steel guitar. In 1969, Barbara inked a deal with Columbia Records, with the unfaltering backing of her father, Herbie Mandrell, who thought her ability was too good to be squandered. From small-scale performances for her family to a more grand stage, where she would encounter many obstacles, this was the turning point. My Love Has Been With You. Too Long Barbara's first song was an undeniable demonstration of her abilities. Barbara gave Otis Redding's famous song a bold and unusual cover version by adding her own soul and emotion. After the song went viral, Barbara Mandrell became a household name in the music world. Having success early on does not guarantee future success either. Barbara encountered doubt and criticism during the early stages of her professional journey. Many thought her music was strange since it combined classic country with R&B and soul. Many in the industry, including critics, thought she was trying to do too much, while her male colleagues were far more acceptable for being inventive and innovative in their music. Barbara had to establish herself not only as an outstanding singer, but also as an advocate for that right. Treat Him Right, Barbara's 1971 debut album, was a display of her distinctive style. Her rise to fame as a contemporary country music superstar began with this album, which was well received by listeners. Lyrics written by Barbara that allowed listeners to experience the raw emotions derived from her life made songs like Show Me and Playing Around with Love renowned not just for their infectious tunes, but also for the way Barbara delivered genuine stories. Barbara, though, was never one to sit on her successes. Repetition was not art for her, rather it was a means to an end. The discovery of new possibilities. Barbara boldly decided to leave Columbia Records and sign with ABC Records in 1975 after several years. Tom Collins, an innovative and risk-taking music producer, became her collaborator as a result of this decision. Working with them was the turning point in Barbara's professional life. The same year, Barbara's Standing Room Only entered the country charts and swiftly rose to the top 5, completing her musical style change. Barbara's innovative spirit permeated her performances as much as her music. Her concerts were extravagant extravaganzas, full of costume changes, high-energy dance routines, and performances including multiple instruments. They were more than just places for people to hear her music. In addition to her vocal talents, Barbara captivated audiences with her mastery of several instruments, including the steel guitar, saxophone, and banjo. These endeavors did double duty. They won over her supporters and set the stage for her career's crowning glory. Barbara knew in her heart that being creative was about more than just making other people happy. It was her way of being authentic. She found a way to express herself via music at every performance, transforming her hardships and sufferings into works of art. Barbara Mandrell became an untouchable legend in the country music industry due to her genuine performances. During her time with ABC Records and producer Tom Collins, Barbara Mandrell's career reached new heights. However, she never stopped challenging the norms of country music, which is known for its fidelity to tradition, even after she had achieved early success. In her daring hybrid approach, Barbara did more than just sing traditional country ballads. She added the contemporary spirit of R&B and soul to them. Her songs were more than just music. They were narratives about love, treachery, and the small sacrifices that people made in life, and many people could relate to her lyrics. Through the late 1970s and into 1975, Barbara released a steady stream of iconic singles. The 1978 single, Sleeping Single in a Double Bed, propelled her to stardom as it became the #1 country song on Billboard. It was more than a song. It was a fearless woman's assertion about the intricate nature of love connections. Her subsequent single, If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right, further established her as an innovator in country music narrative. Barbara wanted her listeners to feel her music, not merely hear it. Live performances by her were more like brilliant works of art than concerts. Barbara transformed each performance into an extravagant extravaganza by including elaborate stage lighting, one-of-a-kind costumes, and multi-instrumental performances. Her spectacular dance routines, costume changes, and multi-instrumental prowess — she could play steel guitar, saxophone, banjo, and bass — never failed to wow her audiences. Not only did her indefatigable inventiveness make her one of the most adored artists of all time, but it also revolutionized the way people viewed country music, making it seem less stagnant and more full of life and modernity. Barbara Mandrell not only remained prominent, but also ruled the charts when the 1980s began. Years, Crackers, and I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool were some of her most popular songs, and they helped bring country music to a wider audience. Among Barbara's many songs, I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool stands out as a strong declaration of her devotion to her roots in the face of industry turmoil and difficulty. Very few female artists of her time were as well respected as Barbara was during this time. She made history by becoming the first female to ever win the Country Music Association's CMA Entertainer of the Year award twice in a row in 1980 and 1981. These honors served as a declaration that women could indeed lead in a male-dominated field, while simultaneously recognizing her brilliance. This accomplishment further emphasizes Barbara's pioneering status, as just a small number of artists, notably Taylor Swift, have been able to replicate it. But behind the scenes, Barbara had a far from idyllic life. Her life was turned upside down in 1984 when she was in a terrible vehicle accident. Tragically, Barbara and her 2 small children were engaged in a car incident on their way home to Nashville. Mark White, a 19-year-old motorist, failed to yield and crashed head-on into her vehicle. Barbara and her children were severely hurt, and Mark White died instantaneously. Barbara was hurt badly, breaking her leg and ankle in addition to her head, and temporarily injuring her brain. Her children made it out alive, but they suffered injuries that would stay with them forever. Both the physical and mental harm caused by the collision were substantial. Due to the seriousness of her injuries, Barbara needed more than a year to recuperate, and the after effects of her brain damage were still noticeable. She went through a period of memory loss and personality changes, which she compared to losing a part of myself. Amidst all the chaos and constant suffering, Barbara had to ask herself over and over again, would her wonderful career come to an end, or would she be able to return to the stage? The difficulties persisted beyond that point. Barbara had to sue Mark White's family in order to get her insurance company to pay for her astronomical medical bills. According to Tennessee law, controversy ensued over what was really just a necessary formality to satisfy insurance requirements. Uninformed followers blasted her for suing the victim's family, damaging her image for a while. Regardless, Barbara remained resolute, centering her attention on her healing and embracing a life of perseverance. Rather of letting the disaster fester into an unsolvable catastrophe, Barbara transformed it into a driving force for significant change. She used her personal story to become an outspoken supporter of seatbelt safety after her recovery. She took part in public campaigns and events to promote the usage of seatbelts as an ambassador for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. "My children and I wouldn't be here to tell this story if it weren't for seatbelts," Barbara openly said. Barbara Mandrell remained true to herself and refused to allow tragedy to define her. She made her stage return at a charity event with Dolly Parton just 8 months following the accident. Although it was difficult, Barbara's triumphant return was defined by those initial steps back. Through her participation in public safety initiatives, she became an outspoken supporter of the importance of wearing a seatbelt, and she went on to resume her career. The accident was a symbol of the resilience of life, optimism, and determination for Barbara, rather than its demise. Even though people's interest in music started to move toward other types in the late 1980s, Barbara still had a lot of followers. Her explosive performances continued to draw huge crowds, solidifying her position as one of the most beloved entertainers, even as her chart-topping successes grew less frequent. Barbara startled the business in 1997 when she announced her retirement at 49 years old, following more than 30 years of unwavering devotion to music. She made the decision to focus solely on her family out of a profound desire to do so, rather than out of fear or failure. At a time when her son would benefit much from her advice as a parent, she wished she could be there for him as he started high school. A significant step that underscored her decision to end the chapter on her music career was Barbara selling all of her musical instruments. "I have no regrets. I've done what I wanted to do, and now it's time to live the life I've always longed for," she said during a conversation. A moving tribute to Barbara's legendary career, her final performance at the Grand Ole Opry, The Last Dance, was more than just a concert. Under brilliant lights, Barbara made her final appearance on a stage that had been exquisitely decorated, and she sang the hits that had characterized her career before an audience of thousands. A historic moment was born that night among her adoring fans' tears, tremendous ovation, and emotional farewells. After a long and fruitful career, Barbara hung up her hat, smiled contentedly, and vowed to spend the rest of her life at home with her family. Fans in the music industry will always hold Barbara Mandrell in high esteem, even after she retired from performing. Not only was she talented as an artist, but she was also a courageous lady who confronted adversity head-on, triumphed over it, and used her story to motivate people all over the globe. Behind the scenes, Barbara Mandrell was a strong lady who had a rich personal life in addition to being an amazing artist. Barbara found solace in her family, even as her stardom catapulted her to icon status, and she never let the celebrity and fortune get to her. With the support of her husband, Ken Dudney, to whom Barbara had been faithful from childhood, Barbara was able to overcome the tremendous professional challenges she faced. In addition to being her partner, the steadfast emotional anchor was Ken, a retired Navy pilot and former drummer for the Mandrell family band. Their love was unwavering through thick and thin, and they persevered through tragedies like the car catastrophe of 1984. Throughout the months she spent emotionally and physically healing, it was Ken who was there for her, providing support and care. Even although she was at the pinnacle of her career, Barbara never lost sight of her primary responsibility as a mother to her 3 children, Kenneth Matthew, Jamie Nicole, and Nathaniel Mandrell Dudney. In the years following her 1997 retirement announcement, she spent her whole attention on her family, especially her youngest son Nathaniel, who was then a senior in high school and facing many obstacles. To Barbara, seeing her children flourish in a safe and nurturing home was the greatest gift life has to offer. Barbara may have faded from public view, but she never shirked her love of music. After she retired, she would sometimes play for smaller audiences or at church, where she would sing songs with great emotion. In addition to keeping her faith alive and well, these times allowed her to stay in touch with music. Having said that, Barbara's private life extended much beyond her musical endeavors and her family. A powerful and ambitious lady, she devoted a great deal of her time to helping others and promoting social justice. After realizing that wearing a seatbelt had prevented injuries to her and her children, Barbara became a vocal supporter of initiatives to increase traffic safety. She was a generous supporter of many other nonprofits, including those that helped soldiers and orphans. The demands of parenting and the impossible expectations of her listeners were just 2 of the many obstacles that Barbara never shied away from discussing. Whether she was writing about love, family, or the struggles of life, her stories always touched people and gave them something to think about. Motivating and guiding the next generation was not just her duty, but also an integral aspect of Barbara's life. Barbara managed to keep her equilibrium and serenity despite her hectic schedule. She found peace and quiet at the Nashville ranch owned by the Mandrell family. When Barbara was with her pets, in her garden, or just sitting with Ken to watch the sun go down over the fields, she felt at ease. Despite the hardships she endured, Barbara Mandrell's life is a testament to love, sacrifice, and enduring principles. In addition to becoming an icon of country music, she exemplified the virtues of perseverance by prioritizing her family and her faith. Keeping your exact words intact, here is the revised text with punctuation. A life of hardship, success, and dogged determination is Barbara Mandrell's narrative. She may have faded from public view over 20 years ago, but her legacy lives on in the music she created and the principles she championed. In addition to being a country music legend, she is a real-life example of how love, family, and determination can triumph over adversity. Celebrities like Barbara Mandrell, who famously stated, "I don't need fame to feel whole, I just need to live a meaningful life," have built their careers on a foundation of talent, passion, and unfaltering principles. Her story may have ended, but the inspiration she offered will live on in the globe and guide generations to come. Reflecting on Barbara Mandrell's life, one witnesses not just a remarkable artist, but also a strong woman who embraced life to the fullest, carrying her responsibilities and passions with all her heart. She put herself out there in order to not only remain unflappable in the limelight, but also to carve out a life for herself apart from the glitz and glitter. Even if Barbara's performance has come to a close, her legacy will live on in the hearts of her fans. She is more than just a star. Her path is an inspiring tale of love, determination, and the power of the human spirit. To paraphrase what she stated herself, music will fade, but what you leave in the hearts of others is what truly lasts. Have you any opinions on the remarkable adventure that Barbara Mandrell undertook? Did she move you as much as she moved a whole generation of country music lovers? Let us know what you think by leaving a comment. To continue receiving motivational tales about music icons, like and subscribe now.